I literally just finished watching Barbie like actual seconds ago. But I have to get my thoughts out. First and foremost, this movie is iconic, and you can't say it's nothing if it's not fucking iconic. I remember when this movie came out, I had a hard time even really forming an opinion on it because it was more just like a cultural event, and it was kind of just like this crazy. It was a crazy pop culture moment, and what it just kind of represents and what it stood for at the time was just incredibly beautiful and powerful. I did really, I don't know, I enjoyed what was happening. I also hated it because I was working at a movie theater during that time, and that actually fucking sucked, but it's fine. Um, and this movie, yeah, so this movie was just a crazy moment in history. Um, and we don't have that a lot with movies anymore. Yeah. Um, so yeah, this movie is nothing if not iconic. And it certainly is. Like, I get why. This movie's fucking hilarious. Um, this movie has a great cast. Michael Cera might be like one of just my favorite people on the planet. the when Kenna runs into the water and hits the wave and Michael Cera screams, "No!" I literally, the first time I ever saw that, I lost my shit laughing for like I continued thinking about it for the rest of the movie and like chuckling to myself. That it was so funny. I love Michael Cera. I love his deliveries. And everybody in this movie has really good delivery and it's really well written. Like the dialogue is really funny, it's really punchy. Um and just and this whole movie is just surreal and it's not afraid to be surreal and it's not afraid to be a movie, which I love to say when a movie's not afraid to be a movie, but I love when a movie's not afraid to be a movie. um it's surreal and it does follow its own rules. It has its own system and it doesn't completely make sense, but it doesn't have to, and and it follows its own rules well enough, and it's a very interesting outlook and introspection on humanity and society and gender roles, most specifically, and what it means to be a person, and the beauty and the pain and all of that, which are just beautiful things to explore and important things to explore. And I think, they were really spelled out in very nice and genuinely kind of informative ways. And that being said, I think this movie is a beautiful 9 out of 10. I think this movie is a beautiful 4.5 stars. Because there are several things that I dislike about it, and here they are. Number one, it's just like the big corporation is just like fine and cheery and beautiful and nothing's wrong with them. And it is kind of poked fun at a few times, and I do think the movie is meta aware of it. The fact that obviously the corporate overlords have to be pleased to a certain extent. Um, and like, I do get that. I do understand, like, it's their movie at the end of the day. This is a movie about their product, and though it is made beautifully, that's what it is. It's a movie about a product, and they paid for it, and yeah. Actually, I don't know. Did somebody pay? There's no way somebody asked for Mattel. Like, Mattel must have asked for this to be made, I feel. But I don't know. Don't quote me on that because I don't know and I'm not gonna look it up. I'm just gonna assume my assumption is correct. Okay, so there's that. I just dislike that in general. I think that's kind of gross. But like Will Ferrell, like, okay, props to Will Ferrell. Honestly, I don't like Will Ferrell that much, but props to Will Ferrell in this movie because he did kind of eat it up, unfortunately. I love that he's just in it for little girls' dreams and like obviously no. Um, but it's it's a surreal movie. It's not real. It's not supposed to be real. Obviously, Barbies can't come to real life. So, liberties have to be taken, but I do take issue with that still. It still affects my enjoyment of the movie. Sorry if I'm giving you motion sickness here. Um okay, next thing. And I love Ryan Gosling, and I can't tell, I think it's a mixture of things, but honestly, Ken just does not really do it in this movie for me, most of it, like, most of the time. Because, like, he's great at the beginning and the end when he stops doing the patriarchy stuff, but I think part of it is, I really love Barbie, Life in the Dream House. I really loved that show, and Ken is my favorite character on that show. And so obviously seeing him in a state like this, I'm like, this is not Ken. This is not Ken. He would never do this. But at the same time, I do understand this is not Barbie Life in the Dream House. This is a new take. This is a new take and a new better story. And what he's doing does better fit the story, and it does make sense, and he has character growth and development. But it still just really takes me off. And I think it's partly the writing, and I do think it is partly Ryan Gosling does also do a really good job of pissing me off, and also just in general, like, what he did, like, really makes me mad. And yeah. And then, okay, and this, so there's that, and I do really love Ryan Gosling, and I love him most of the time, and he's so funny throughout the whole thing. He's really funny. It just Ken really starts to piss me off as well. That's a fact. That's a fact, and it's my opinion, but my opinion is also a fact because that's how I feel, and my feelings are real. Okay, building off of that, I hate how the Kens don't immediately have equal rights at the end, but I guess, you know, it's just kind of interesting how they compared that of, like, oh, women had to fight to get their rights, and, like, yeah, that makes sense, but it's kind of played, like, the whole movie, like, the kids are dumb, like, the kids are stupid, and the kids are very easily manipulated, and the Barbies are really smart, and it's just, like, I think it's just crazy to compare that to the oppression of women in the sense that it's, like, it makes sense that women have to fight for their rights when, like, women shouldn't have to fight for their rights. Like, in an ideal world, everyone would just be nice to each other all the time because that's how it should be. But is that what happens? No. And, like, I guess that does make sense, but, like, the Barbie land is supposed to be an ideal world, so, like, why wouldn't the Kens just get immediately equal rights? And you could say it's because, like, oh, the Kens are dumb, but then I'm like, but why compare it to women then? I don't know. I think it was just interesting to point out of, like, saying, like, you have to fight for your rights just like the women in the real world and move through it over time. But, like, everyone deserves to have equal rights right now, one could say, and you can quote me on that. And I guess speaking on women's rights and feminism, gosh, I dare say this movie is very white feminism, and I say that in the sense of this movie is not intersectional, like, at all, really, and I feel like that could be explored, and I think they do hint at it. I don't think they're trying to be actively not, but they're not really trying too hard either. And I could talk for hours about this, so I will try to keep it brief, and I'm also not an expert on anything. This is just my opinion of the world so far, but I think it's pretty correct. They just kind of dance with diversity, and they don't really explore how diversity and how being different from the norm actually affects a person's life. Because, like, this movie's, like, yeah, like, and yeah, women, face oppression, they face different standards than men, 100%, and yeah, and women live under a patriarchy, we all live under a patriarchy, and what does that mean? And that theme is explored, but what's not explored is, like, I don't know, racism. How does it feel to not live only under patriarchy as a woman, but also live under systematic racism as a black woman? And how do those two things intersect? And what does that mean? And obviously, that's what intersectionality is. And I think if you're gonna talk about anything, you kind of have to start talking about everything. So I understand it's a hard thing to balance, but still, they toyed with it. I think they toyed with it, but they didn't really dip their toe in even. Didn't even say, there's never been a black woman president. We've only had one black president. We've only had one black male president. They don't even touch that. It's just implied. It's implied because we know, but they don't touch it. And I find that interesting. I don't know. And then finally, my last bit, and again, I haven't researched this at all, so maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm just, not seeing things correctly, but a lot of this movie looked like CGI. Like, a lot of it. Especially in the Barbie world. I don't like that. I didn't like it. I don't know. I just didn't like it. It looked like CGI to me. I didn't like the way it looked. And there were things that I did like. There were definitely things that I did like. It wasn't an ugly movie. But I've seen better. And I feel like it could have been better. And I would have enjoyed it more if it was more practical. Or at least more practical looking. I don't know. That's it. That's the end of the... I'm done now. Okay, so you can go. Goodbye. Thanks for watching.